So today the gentleman was supposed to be here, but apparently he is not, so I'm going to talk for him. Welcome everyone. My name is Sachi Dastidar. Full Bengali name is Sachi Dastidar. So I'm with this Indian subcontinent partition documentation project for quite some time. We started it actually. Today we are. It's very important day. Baisakh is the beginning of the new year, and as it's a very important day for Bengalis especially, because it's one of the most secular days which is celebrated by everybody. But this is also not just Bengalis. Assamese call it Bohag, Punjabis call it Baisakhi. Also we have Tamils celebrate this as a new year, as do Sinhalese, as do Thais, and many other groups celebrate. The Biharis is also. So we welcome you all. So this is the format. Would be first we'll have Ms.Porie Saikia Eapen showing you some slides. Actually, she was what I understood that she was a very good performer, but she didn't want to perform now. She said she wanted to share some of the things of the northeast of India, which is rarely visited by most of us. Then we will have a question and answer. There are two individuals who promised they will be here by 2 o'clock. Sorry to say, they are not here. One is Dr. Thomas Dulurai. He is supposed to be singing, as well as Mrs. Shubhra Goswami and her troupe Ranjani, who are supposed to perform. She even called me before I came around noon that she will be here by 2 o'clock. So is not. So this is us. Couple of things. Partition documentation project. For lack of time, we would have invited Shubho to tell. We are doing many things. First of all, we are saving the stories of refugees, protectors and survivors, how they survived, or the refugees, how they fled. We have over 150 of these interviews at YouTube, and many large universities are doing research based on that. Here we have Dr. Mondal. He has his story of survival there, as we have a number of other people. At this time, we are also doing annual conferences. Please do join our conferences in October. We are also publishing 2 times our newsletter. So we have the newsletter on that side. I'll later on circulate. At the same time, if there are newcomers, we are also publishing journal. Now I'm pleased to say, we just received maybe a month and a half ago the ISSN number from Library of Congress, so we become more recognized. And we have received articles from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, United States, and other places. So now this one has 10 articles, so we are raising money by selling $5. If anybody would like to pick up 1 or more copies to help us, please do so. And then we will have, also I invite you to write for the journal. As a matter of fact, I was just telling Professor Mondal, he had a very wonderful article he wrote last time for the conference, so I was asking him to write it. So also this place, number of groups have rented it for holding their meetings. So if any of you want to have a meeting, you let us know. We'll be happy to have this place available to you. We are trying to also develop a library. Actually, I have over probably $60,000-$70,000 or more worth of books on partition and things related to that. But we just have even not money to buy these cabinets and hold it. So that's what we're doing. We are also starting a museum, one-room museum. We have some documents, but we need to label them. We should do it. We want to welcome you to help us. And also we are having monthly events. If you want to do something, we'd like to hear anything. It doesn't have to be even about India. We are willing to hear about Africa or from your travel. So if you want to do it, monthly things, please let us know. If you want to create a forum on the basis of the problem you're talking about in Bangladesh or any other place, let us know. So at the end of this this meeting, we will ask all of you to introduce yourself. Please do introduce, and then we will have, after that, we will have some snacks, and already Bina Pani and Priyotosh have brought some fancy food, as did Shefali and Sumedha, so we'll share that. And we'll also circulate, not a hat, a can, to support our program. So if you can afford, donate generously. And then, if you are new, please leave us your email and address so that we can mail our newsletters. We send it by regular address, mail, and email we send our invitations so that it saves us cost. So we'll do that. With that, let me introduce Ms.Porie Saikia Eapen. She is a very famous architect. She is originally from Assam, and she holds a very high position here in one of the offices. But she is also, as I said, she used to perform a lot, but she hasn't done it. So with that, in celebration of Bohag, the New Year, Assamese New Year, so she is going to make a presentation. With that, let me give it to her. Thank you very much.
Can I add one sentence? Way back, Uri was the program director of our correction program unit of our agency, and we used to work with together. And with that, we are still friends.
Thank you.
I'm going to stay here, right?
Okay, I can push the button if you like. Okay.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Shefali. Thank you for inviting me here. And you know, as Shefali said, that I've known her I've known both of them, and Shiva when he was very young. So I'm not a performer. I used to love dancing, but you know, time changes. So when you get older, you really don't get up and dance every time. But I thought what would be more appropriate today is to talk a little bit about the Northeast India. And you know, over many conversations that I've had with Shefali and you know, Sachi and your group, you know, over and while you were working with Probini and all that stuff, is and you've done work in Assam, and you've had Mizoram, and you've had Shibirs and all those things there. So I thought it would be interesting to give you a little bit of an overview of the Northeast India from its cultural background. Not so much what you probably already know, which is more political. And for, as Sachi said earlier, today is, tomorrow actually, 14th, right? Is a new year for us, just like it's in West Bengal, and just like it's in the north, in Punjab. In the Northeast, there are 8 states, and there used to be 7, used to be called 7 sisters, now it's 8 sisters, includes Sikkim. And almost in all of those states, today is a celebratory day to tomorrow. It is New Year's for most, also, because our New Year is not a religious function. And our New Year's, there was no saint born, there was no gods came. Our New Year is about spring, and our New Year is about renewal, and our New Year is about rejuvenation. So there is a lot of, it's a festival to do with springs. So that is the northeast part of India, you all know. And well, by the way, I also worked in Bangladesh for the I took a job and for a foundation which was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I went to work in Bangladesh. That was my first trip ever when I went as an executive director of this foundation to Chittagong. And to my great delight, I still have friends. I've left that job and I've left the foundation, but all of those folks that I worked with and I met and companies that organizations that I established in Bangladesh are still going very strong. So I'm very happy to say that I worked in the construction industry in Bangladesh to abolish child labor. And we worked all the way, at that time Khalida Zia was the president. I worked with Khalida Zia and worked with various various ladies who actually worked for caring for the children, for women. We also included as a part of an industry practice women in the construction industry. So we actually had women trained as apprentices by contractors in Bangladesh, Bangladeshi women, to become to become construction workers, to become welders, to become bricklayers, etc. And since I had the luxury of putting out large projects, because I was the client, we mandated and made it a rule that if you don't have 15% women in your workforce, you won't get a job from us. And if you employ any children under 15, you will lose your contract with us. Anybody who's 15 plus, you will have to apprentice them and teach them a trade. So it kind of, when you're giving out work, it works better. So, and I'm happy to say, I still get reports from Bangladesh, from my friends and the industry that they are still very, very, they're enforcing it wherever they can. So this is northeast of India, which is sort of, as you can see, this is the only connection to the northeast of India from the rest of India, and this is true West Bengal. And this is Bangladesh here. And so this is Sikkim, this is Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, and Arunachal. So that's 8 of them. Most of the people in the northeast, you probably know already, because in Bangladesh there are a lot of tribes that actually tells you, are from the Burmese, Thai ancestry, Mongolian ancestry. So up until the British came to India, all of this was really not part of India. Okay, sorry about that.
That's not
What did happen?
If you push it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, this has to be very, very, okay, I won't touch it again. It was very,
Yeah, there's a support, but we didn't use it. Be careful. At least it came back up. One good thing.
okay, so these are the 8 states, and so the land area of the northeast for the 8 states is about 8% of the rest of the country, and the population is about 39 million. So when you think about 1 billion people in India, and we are sort of 39 million, it's a very small group of people, and most of the land is really forestry and mountainous region. There is the river that starts up in the north in the Himalayas, and then it's a sister river to the Yangtze, which goes all the way down to the Mekong Delta. And we have only one international airport, which is in Guwahati, And our highway basically goes from that little strip that I just pointed out when I threw over the screen, is the only one that connects to the rest of the 8 states. And it's sort of like a railroad highway. So it goes from one state to the next to the next. One of the major resources we have in Northeast India is oil. So oil, coal, but oil is our largest. And that's how actually the British came to India. The oldest refinery, oldest oil museum is in Assam, in Digboi. And it's still actually a museum, it's still running. And one of the oldest refineries in the world that for oil is in there, which is still oldest functioning refinery. So once the British came there looking for the oil, when they found oil, then they planted tea. So oil and tea are major. And food-wise, we eat a lot of rice. We are not wheat and chapati eaters, but we do grow them. And so the major plantation crop, as you can see, we grow and trade and about 494 million kgs a year of tea. So I just want to give you a little bit of flavor of what the geography looks like and what the culture seems like there. So this is Sikkim. Again, Sikkim's only got 700,000 people, really small, and it's 7,000 square kilometers, not even miles, it's kilometers. It's the one of the smallest states in India. So Sikkim kind of goes right up to the Himalayas. So if you're going up to Sikkim, you'll actually walk literally on a field like this, and right in front of your eyes, the ice. It's sort of like when you go to Alaska, you're walking, and then suddenly the glaciers showed up in front of you. It's pretty much like that. It's very beautiful. Sikkim is, as you saw on the map, when you go east on Delhi, towards Delhi, and one day when I was very young and I was coming back from school, which is on the western part of India, I used to take a flight from Delhi to go to Assam. And I still remember that. The airline pilot tells you, look left, this is this, look right, you'll see this. And then just past Sikkim, he says, and I still say this to people, he says, we're going to be landing in Guwahati pretty soon, right after I make a right at the Everest. So I always tell people, to get to my place, where I live, or where I'm from, you go from Delhi, you fly, and you make a right at the Everest. It's kind of like a direction. So this is kind of something you see in Sikkim every morning. And Sikkim has a king and a queen, and right now actually there is a princess who's very, very involved in environmental sustainability, tourism, environmental independence, bringing up. So they do an amazing job with what they call rural tourism. So if you ever want to go to Sikkim, you actually, most of the time, you would deal with the Sikkim government's rural tourism department, and what rural tourism means is that you will go and live in somebody's house as a guest. So they do not have big hotels. I mean, they have big hotels in Gangtok, and they're not really that big. But if you go outside of Gangtok, you would actually live in people's houses. And they're very well organized, they're very well trained. They cook very good food for you, so you don't have to worry about eating strange foods. And they have hot water, they have all of this. So the government has helped them do that. And Sikkim's also very famous for orchids. And this is the time of the year Northeast is flooded with orchids. Because Northeast is, and so the orchids actually are called the flowers of the spring. For us, it's the New Year flower. So on a New Year, when you go to somebody's house and you want to greet somebody, you give them an orchid. These are Sikkimese ladies. They generally look very oriental, as you can see, but they're tall. They're pretty much like people from Inner Mongolia, which are very, oriental, but very tall. and their clothing is just absolutely fabulous. It looks like this lady who's wearing this here. It's very much like an evening gown, and it's their traditional clothing. So it's kind of like sleeveless while she's wearing something underneath because probably it's colder, and so it's now being used as a fashion statement outside of Sikkim and outside of India, and a lot of people in Europe designers in Europe actually are using that. We're kind of from Sikkim, we're going north. This is Arunachal. This is a small town in Arunachal. This is called Zero. Again, population's a little bit bigger. It's 1.1 million people. Arunachals are very much like what you would see in the Greek islands. You know, things are nestled into the mountains, onto the side of the mountains. By the way, both Sikkim, Arunachal, and all these areas, except for Assam and South, are pretty cold, and you do have, 4 seasons really, like here. These are local bridges in Arunachal. There are lots of rivers. Arunachal has over 100 rivers, fast-running rivers, and so when people need to cross, this is what they build. These are built by the people of the village. They are not government designed or built. So they would take roots, tree roots.
Rope bridge?
This is a rope bridge, yeah. And make rope, and then they would. So it just something, see, in the middle, it actually touches the water. So it's not so much just to stay afloat above the water, it's just to cross. And this is how they cross to go to school, to trade, to everything. These are Arunachali girls, one on the very traditionally dressed, and the one on the right is kind of sort of traditional, but Arunachal also has they're very, very modern. You find almost everybody speaks English, and the literacy rate is very high. And Arunachal has one of the oldest Buddhist monastery in the world. It's called the Tawang Monastery, which is one of the buildings down there. And the little pieces in different colors are little districts of Arunachal. So another thing in the first slide that I forgot to mention is that about 75% of Northeast India is bordered by foreign countries, whether it's China or Burma and Bangladesh.
Bhutan.
And Bhutan, yes. In Arunachal, because of the, again, like I said, we are all descendants of the more of the Chinese and the Thai origin. We have a lot of cultures. This is a dragon dance, which you would probably see in Flushing in Chinese New Year. So there's a lot of these kind of events. They're very special. And New Year's, like now, this week, there will be a lot of these dances because the weather becomes warm and the sun comes out and people, the snow melts. So you have so dragon dance is it's actually very auspicious, and it's supposed to bring good luck and good fortune for the next year's crop. This is also these are people who go to they're like witch doctors. They go to the mountains and they bring whatever it is that you normally don't get to make people better, to do all kinds of stuff. That's a hornbill. You see that in Arunachal a lot. Of course, the snow leopards and yaks. These are baby yaks on the right. One of the things that Arunachal has, it has and I fortunately was able to participate in that effort and become a life member in an organization called the Eco Camp. So we developed this thing called the Eco Camp in Arunachal, where people couldn't just come fishing anytime, so they had to get a license. And we organized for the local people to actually then get, financial, like jobs out of it. So if you have a tourist, you go and stay at the Eco Camp. You have your boatman who is local, you have your guide who is local, you have your cook who is local. So that's actually been a tremendous success for one specific reason, is because Arunachal, on the running waters of Arunachal, has a fish called the masir. And masir is for people who are anglers, masir is they would travel, from one end of the world to the other to go fish for masir. And so masir is Arunachal's big, international. There are big masir organizations. Australians, a lot of Canadians go. So if you want to get from one place to another in Arunachal, this is how you'd go. These are roads that actually were built, some of them were built or at least put in place, or the idea was put in place by the British, and then of course the government of India for, a lot of these roads got developed after the first major Chinese war with India, with Assam, Northeast actually in 1964. River rafting is another very famous sport in Northeast, in Arunachal. So that's also something that if you just want to do river rafting, you can book yourself from here. They'll take you from river to river to river. And this is, by the way, the Brahmaputra, which is up very small, thin and skinny up there, very fast. And they're very well equipped with. And then we come to the right, down to Manipur. I put these two pictures up front for Manipuris because this woman, in 2011, led the Indian women's hockey team and won the Commonwealth Games.
Hockey or boxing?
She was boxing, right? Her name is Surajita. There was a woman. I didn't put that right, but hockey too they have. And she was the boxing champion. She was a world women's boxing champion. And then there is polo. Manipur is very, very well known for polo. So there's a lot of polo tournaments that take place. As of last year, Manipur actually now has in India the first baseball stadium. International standard or American standard. And it was actually in collaboration with the American Baseball Association. They also have a competition rowing, which is traditional. So it sort of gets wrapped up in very traditional cultural nuances, but it's still a competition. And so these are the kind of things would start in April, then go all the way through October. That's a traditional Manipuri lady dressed in a traditional Manipuri embroidered. It's sort of like an equivalent to a sarang sabaya. The bottom is separate and the top is separate. And on the right is a very, very traditional Manipuri dance. It's essentially it's Krishna and Radha, but it's called Kamba Tuibi. And then we go to Nagaland. So on the left is the Naga boys, and on the right are the Naga girls. Do you see any difference there? These are traditional. They are going to some traditional function, and believe me, when they are not dancing, they will dress like the ones up there, because that's from a high school, or the girls' school. On the right at the bottom, these are very typical Naga, what we call Naga chants. They live pretty much like any tribe around the world, as you see. They mostly live in one big connected house, so there are no separate houses. Everything is connected to one another. Again, Nagaland's orchids. These are also very famous orchids of Nagaland. And they make a beer out of flowers. Not from orchids, but flowers, spring flowers. And that's a bamboo beer mug that is very traditional in Nagaland. and it's something that similarly in Arunachal they make actually something equivalent to a moonshine called apom, but what the Nagas make is a beer, and it's pretty good actually. This is again the four ladies up top is a very traditionally dressed. They are actually the Tetsuyo sisters. They're very, very famous. They're singers. They sing all over the world, and they have brought Naga music to to the rest of the world where nobody ever heard. So if you actually Google Tetsuyo sisters, T-E-T-S-E-O, they have tons and tons of lovely music on YouTube, and they're also very, very pretty ladies. They also do all those four photos are them. So they also have their own band where they have Western, they sing Western songs. This is Mizoram. That's in the center is sort of a more, Mizoram has, each of these states have many tribes, it's not just one tribe. So that center picture is actually a very specific tribe because Mizoram, as everybody knows, is very famous for the bamboo dance. That's not the bamboo dance. The lady on the left, which is a very young girl, and she's smoking a pipe, and one on the right is dressed in a bamboo dance garb, which is generally what people see when they talk about Mizo attire. On the left, it's actually a beauty contest. So these are all Mizo girls, and this is Miss Mizoram contest. And those are some college girls from Mizoram, in Mizoram. Mizoram is the state, probably next to Kerala, is the largest Christian community there. So most people in Mizoram are Christians. So some of the left there is a church, and some of these date way back. On the right, that's a temple. So they also have some very traditional Hindu and Buddhist cultures and traditions. And down bottom is a village actually. Mizoram has a very interesting festival. It's called the Anthurium Festival. So when the Anthurium blooms, the young girls, they all go up to the mountains, collect the flowers, bring them in, and it's a big, traditional event that takes place, and it takes place over a whole weekend. So these are four girls that actually already got their Anthuriums. This is another one where I guess it's a more celebrated function where a lot of people are watching. This is the bamboo dance. So you see the boys are moving the bamboos up and down, and the girls dancing in between the bamboos as they move. And this is Meghalaya, which is again borders Bangladesh in the north. Meghalaya means, well, you probably all know because people who speak Bengali will know what Meghalaya is. It's the place in the clouds. So this is what Meghalaya looks like actually, all the way. This photo is taken at a place called Tangkarang. Tangkarang is the highest spot at the end of Meghalaya, where you can actually look down and you can see Bangladesh. Meghalaya also has some beautiful, beautiful waterfalls all over. And again, this is a drive to Tangkarang where you see these waterfalls along. And on the right bottom, that's a strawberry, and it's a very different looking strawberry, and that grows in Meghalaya. It's very tasty. So it's this very glassy looking. This is one of the older government buildings, which is now changed, and now it's used for a museum, I think, in Shillong, which is the capital of Meghalaya. Shillong, by the way, used to be the capital for everything in the northeast. Northeast used to be one big state called Assam, and Shillong used to be the capital of Assam. So when they broke into 7 different states, Shillong stayed with Meghalaya as the capital. And a lot of these buildings were actually built by the British. This is the root bridge. If you've ever heard of the famous root bridges of Meghalaya, they are all made of root. There is no rope, there is no plastic or metal or nothing. They're just roots of trees, and they're living. They're living trees. So that traditionally what happens is one person or a few people, they will start weaving a bridge when they're very young, taught by their father or by their grandfather, and then they take custody of that and they pass the job. It's not so much how, but it's, you know, that one must do this. And so they have sons and grandsons and granddaughters that continue to weave because they are living the roots. You have to continuously weave. Every week you have to go out there and you have to weave in the new root that grew out. So these root bridges are constantly growing. And when the old ones that dry out, you have to take them out. So this is not just a tradition, this is actually a responsibility that one family or one person takes on, and then also takes on the responsibility of passing it down to their next generations. These are the girls from Meghalaya. Meghalaya is very famous for oranges, by the way. We have some beautiful tangerines, not so much oranges. The girls in the middle are traditionally dressed, and the girl on the right is also traditionally dressed, except that she's walking down she's on a fashion parade. She's walking down a fashion aisle. So all of the clothing, except for the ones in the north, in Nagaland, Arunachal, because it's colder, and in Mizoram, it's made of wool and heavy cotton. But in Assam, Meghalaya, all of the fineries are silk. They're always made from.
Export tangerines and oranges?
And this is a traditional dance. That's again a traditional hat of the Jaintia people. That's how they build. It's like a community hall. And the bridge below is actually in the lake in Shillong, which has been there for as long as I can remember. These are some old monasteries that were built into the mountains. And as you can see, the waterfall comes in front of it. This is another festival. This is they consider this to be the 7 houses of the gods that they have to pray to every October to ward off cholera for Tripura. Again, this is Nir Mahal on top, the royal palace, and which is, you know, the bigger picture at the bottom. It's one of the most beautiful architectural piece that Northeast has actually still maintained. And it was at one point, it was in very bad shape. They have brought it back. It's a very, very beautiful design. It looks like something that's Western or European, but when you look closer at various things, it's got so much. It doesn't look like a Jaipuri palace, but when you look at it close up, you see a lot of Indian architecture intertwined in there. That Ujjayanta Palace is, of course, now it's a government building. There are some very famous rock carvings, that's at the bottom, and that's been, you know, something that worth seeing if anybody ever goes to Tripura. Those are Tripuri girls on the right. Those are now consist of the 17% of the people in Tripura are the Tripuris, and on the right bottom are the Tripuri couple. These are dancers. Again, they are also Tripuris. There's a very famous dance that Tripura does. This Tripuris does. It's a dance where they dance on top of a water. They carry water in this clay pots, and the girls actually stand on top of it, and they dance, and then they carry like a bottle with a candle on top of it. So they're not only dancing on top of a small mouse, you know, water carrier, They also have a candle on top of their head. And it's not a very slow dance, by the way. I'm sure you've seen some of them. They're very, very delightful. We are now in the middle of the northeast, which is Assam, which is most parts of it, because it's in the valley, it's very hot. And also that's one of the reasons, because the way the climate changes there very drastically, we have a lot of tea. And this is the tea garden. And I'm sure you know about tea, but tea is always plucked with 2 leaves and 1 bud. So that's in the middle there. Even a tea picker, Assam's tea pickers are very, very famous. They are now being taken to the south. On the right is a tea taster. You taste your tea in about 12 different ways every time, every type of tea, with more water, less water, with milk, with not milk. And a cup of Assam tea is actually a very nice thing to do any time of the day. On the left top is a road, again, very similar. A lot of the northeast is very hilly, so there's no difference. On the right is a rice field on top, and on the left here is some of the one of the lakes where in the Kaziranga, which is a game sanctuary. There are a bunch of game sanctuaries in the northeast. There are about 6 of them. And Kaziranga, everybody knows, because Kaziranga has been, publicized a lot more. But there are, and these are some of the very specific. We have the one-horned rhino is found all over Assam, all over the northeast. And that lower left is a creature. It's called lumori. I think it's called a lumori locally. It kind of looks like an armadillo. Assam also, in addition to the Assamese from the valley, there are different tribes. So this is a Dimasa tribe, so Dimasa girls. Then there are these Khamti. Khamtis are also, again, very, very, as you can see, very Chinese ancestry. That's Bodo on the left. On the right is the Ali Ligang. And on the right bottom is a chumur, which is a very, very specific dance from with the girls from the tea gardens dance. And of course on the left are the carvings on the temple of Kamakya, which is one of the oldest I guess it's
temples of India.
Durga temple.
Oldest temple of India, actually, one of the oldest.
And Assam's also been known to be a place where astrology started, and it's also known to be a place where a lot of equivalent to voodoo takes place. This is a typical Assamese classical dance, which is called the Khatriya, which started, Khatriya means Khotro, Khotro means school, so where people were taught. So they were not just taught, knowledge and science and stuff, they were also taught music and art. This is the folk dance, which is tomorrow, everybody in Assam will be dancing everywhere, called the Bihu dance. These are some of the foods that on the right, extreme right, is that hottest chili in the world. It's known as the Phut Jolokia. And
what makes it the hottest chili in the world?
what makes it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it just grows there, right? Well, they've in Connecticut, they actually have a lab that tests, and it grades it depending on the hotness of it, I think.
I was just curious.
Yeah, it is the normally a hot green chili, if its hotness is, for example, 1, this is 2000. That's the difference. So you can smell it and you probably want to run. It is very hot. Some of these foods actually are very similar to foods up in the east of Bangladesh, which is Chittagong.
You cook at your home these dishes?
Did you
As usual.
Sometimes. Sometimes, yeah. Again, these are various temples. These are from the Ahom kings. The one on the right, one in the bottom left is actually a place where the king used to come. It is in the middle of a field. That's where he used to sit. And all the games used to take place around, which was elephant. They're not elephant fights, but the games with elephants and horses and you know, all kinds of animals. And so it's very much like what the Romans did, except they didn't feed anybody to the lions. On the left, again, is called the Shiva Temple. And on the right top is the Joydol. They're all Sibsagar. Sibsagar was the seat of the Ahom king. On the bottom right, it actually goes way back. They say this is Shonipur, Tejpur. It's where a city of blood, where there was a bloodbath because when there was a war with the Pandavas and Kauravas and during Mahabharata and it's a long story, but it goes way back before the other four. And this one on top is a temple in Karbi Anglong also, which is a little bit north of the valley. And you know, this is kind of a scene, that scenery you see. You can't miss seeing if you happen to be in the northeast on a sunset. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you.